Meeting is called to order. If you join me in a moment of silence and pledge. Thank you. Salute. Pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I see three of our commissioners here tonight. Colonel Mall, Mr. Patterson, Mr. Threet. Glad to have you here with us. Glad to have everyone here. First item is to approve the agenda for tonight. Motion.
I move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Ms. Stoll, Mr. Van Winkle,
Here.
Ms. Nichols,
Here.
Ms. Hale, Mr. Davis, Mr. Matthews,
Here.
Mr. Cole,
Here.
Ms. Stout, Mr. King.
Here.
Let the record show Stoll, Stout, Hale, and Davis are not in attendance.
We still have a quorum though, so we're good. So the Budget Committee minutes from last time, is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
I'll second it. I thought we covered that in our last meeting. Did we
They
not?
just came out today.
Okay.
So many minutes. So
Yeah,
little
there
time.
was like 4 or 5 on last time. I'll still second Mr. Van Winkle.
Well, I didn't know if we wanted
Motion
to-
and a second.
Did we not read those?
Is there any discussion on the minutes? No discussion. Those in favor say aye.
And thank you, Diane.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, the minutes are approved. So number 5, budget revision discussion.
Okay, so you have either electronically or you have a copy of a draft. This is technically budget draft number 2, and it was as of May the 20th. So one thing that I can say for each page, additional fluff, and I don't know that we had a whole lot, but it has been removed. This is probably one of the closest to actuals that budgets that we have had in a while. The first thing I would like to draw your attention to would be page 5. At this point, the revenues have not changed. So page 5. So we still have the 360 teaching positions. The last document that I gave you based on each individual school and our allotment meetings, it was showing that we had 360.5 positions that we needed. So these positions are not filled each individual teacher by teacher. It is done on an average, and we use masters and 10 years experience to get that. The pay that we use, as you can see up there in the red, is $55,193.
That's masters plus 5 now.
Okay. I have another number here that I can't see, sorry. And then we do have 2 additional teachers built in, and that is if the elementary schools go over their averages, their cluster averages, that's what that is built in for. We removed summer school. What's been removed from this line, we've removed summer school. The only funding that we have at this time is the funding that the state gives us for summer school. We still have the high school summer school money in there, but it's only for staff. Okay? Also on this line, if you look at 471 software line, we removed Mastery Connect, and we also removed Lexia, and that is $135,000 that was removed.
Can I ask a question on the Mastery Connect thing?
Yes.
I thought that was, a lot of the teachers were starting to come around on Mastery Connect as far as liking it and wanting, seeing it as a tool. Maybe not necessarily as heavy a tool as what we started out with this last year, but seeing it as a good tool. Is that something that we really want to take out?
So what you're referring to is the survey that was sent out to teachers. And at that point, we had 66.6%, because I remembered that for a reason, either agreed or strongly agreed that they felt it was going in a positive direction.
Yeah.
Since then, we have received, and I can't share a whole lot of information because they're embargoed from the state. Since then, we have received our third grade TCAP scores. And it tells a vastly different story.
So it's not, in that aspect, it's not, as far as for the lower grades anyway, it's not helping, not improving much.
Correct. We were very disappointed in what we saw compared to what was projected with Mastery Connect.
Did we see any improvements with it in the upper grades?
All that's been released right now is raw scores. We had to have a little bit more information for third grade because of the third grade retake.
Teaching more
So we were able to get a little bit more, but based on what we saw for third grade,
wasn't good.
no, sir.
The reason I was asking, because I hate to remove something just because of the money side of it, if it's helping. If it's not, then it's farewell. But
And it might be a positive to kind of get a reset on it. There was lots of negativity that surrounded that. So it might be a positive to remove it.
right.
Also on this page from the 429 line, which is one line up above, we have cut all fluff from this line. This is where teachers get their $200. It used to be what you called BEP money for supplies. That is still there, and it's also money for art. On the 499 line, that is band, choir, music, and library, and the amounts that they get are based on the number of teachers and students at each school.
When you said we cut this,
No, we cut any fluff. I mean,
Okay.
it's figured to the penny.
So the $12,990 on 429, is that what you're, and that's about how much difference it is? About almost $13,000.
Yeah.
Okay,
I always allowed for some student number change,
okay.
but they haven't gone up recently.
So is there any questions on page 5?
So page 5, you've reduced it $2.7 million. That's what I've got as a difference in the overall page 5.
I do not, I mean, the copy that I have is from 520, so I don't have how much. I can just tell you what we have reduced. I don't have the total, but that sounds about right.
Okay, I guess the previous recommendation was 34,452, and this is 31,742, so 2.7 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
So before we go on with further pages in the budget, if you were here at the last meeting, we talked about trying to go to a balanced pay scale. But before we could do that, we needed to meet and go back to the union and meet with them. We were able to do that today. And you all have a copy. And Miss Diane, I'm sorry, I'm going from agenda to something different.
It's okay, I got it.
But you do have a copy of a semi-balanced pay scale at this time. So going to this scale, that would affect our proposed budget for 25-26 and have a few additional cuts in there. Ms. Brayer, Mr. Van Winkle, do you remember the amount that we said? I don't know that we had an amount based on further discussion about system-wide.
We haven't calculated that, I
Okay.
don't think, unless Ms. Bray's done it, but.
No, I was too busy recopying everything.
Okay. So, but this is a semi-balanced scale, and it would have a savings for us this year. But where you would probably see more savings is a few years out. And as you know, and this has been said several times, we're not in the shape that we're in based on 1 year. It's taken us several years to get there, so it's going to take us several years to dig out. So that's kind of where we are with this. The union was good for us to share this and to go forward with it.
So Dr. Farley, the original was 300,000 this year and 700,000 next year, but I haven't done these particular numbers yet, but that was the original. It was $1 million over the next 2 years.
In savings.
Yes.
And that's just on this pay scale.
So this pay scale would be the 300,000 for this year.
Okay.
And it would have to be looked at again next year to do this.
Potentially the same
Yeah,
amount
yeah,
next
yeah,
year.
yeah.
But $1 million over 2 years is a pretty good amount.
You can say it.
So any questions on the pay scale?
But I guess my only question is, the union or whoever was, they were comfortable with moving forward this way. They liked, as far as most everybody was in agreement with, that this is the way to go, move forward to help.
Yes, they did have some suggestions, which we can work on to get those and come up with what they suggested. But until I have definites, I would rather not share that publicly.
Yeah.
So no other questions or comments about the pay scale? Okay. So the next big thing that I wanted to talk to you all about was page 9. Okay, so line 189, which is other salaries and wages. So this amount is an estimate based on this year and 3%. So out of this line comes the high school athletic directors, all supplements, and that's current approximately 254, and that's for sports and extracurricular clubs. That was revised in 2020, and you have your coaching longevity schedule based on 22-23 pay for, and then you have pay for ball game duties, and the 3% was added for the coaching supplements.
And those have all been paid, so that's pretty close to actual. Unless we missed one.
So that's an increase of a little over 15,000.
Yes, sir, that's an increase of 15,000. When you stop and think of it, you have 254 supplements, and that's not counting the ball game duty pay.
But the original proposal was actually more than that, so this proposal's less than the original. even with that number. So it's $91,000 savings on that line item. From the original budget we submitted previously.
Draft 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was the budgeted amount.
Yes. So this is an actual
So
amount.
they were all paid out on 5/15 payroll.
I just wanted everybody to know that that saved $91,000 on the last budget that we proposed, so.
Any questions on this? Okay. The next page I would like to draw your attention to is page 13. If you would look at line 105. So there was a mathematical error figured in here. This line was originally, the proposed was 420-something thousand, I do believe. There was an error there that was found. We have taken the 912 supervisor from a doctorate with 36 years experience and 20-plus years admin to a 20-year educator with an EDS and 10 years admin. So that's an average there for that salary. So that line came down significantly as well.
So it's 54,000 less than 420,000.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? So the next page I would like to draw your attention to is page 20. And at this time, the comptroller was removed from line 105. And that was 96,000.
CFO.
CFO.
Yeah.
It's listed as controller and CFO somewhere. It's listed in all the finance person. Okay. Questions? Comments?
We're removing that position, is that what you're saying?
Yes. At this time, this position has been open for over 2.5 years.
Yep.
I think, my opinion on that is vastly different probably than a lot of people's, but I don't understand how we can deal with a budget of, like we deal with, and not have a COO and a CFO. Because those are adversarial positions. They're two separate positions altogether. And to not have one or the other, we're not doing our job. We're not doing our due diligence in maintaining the plant and making sure that we're making the right financial decisions. In any corporation that I've ever worked on, you've had a CFO or a COO that always wants to spend money. They want to make sure that our maintenance is being done, our buildings are being taken care of. The COO is supposed to be responsible for the entire project, more or less. And a CFO is there to say, well, hold back, we can't spend this money, we've got to hold back. So those two equal positions are very adversarial positions. How we can have one or not the other blows my mind for dealing with dollars and cents of this size, of this magnitude. And I think that's one of the reasons it's probably one has been let go a little bit more than the other or something, because maybe that's why some of our facilities are in the shape that they're in and so far behind. So I'm not comfortable with relinquishing that position. I just think we need to put more emphasis on getting the right job description out there to make sure that that position is being fulfilled to the best of its ability. I mean, that's my opinion, and I know everybody else has got one just in the same, so that's what I mean. So, somebody else.
How many years has it been open now?
Over 2.
Yeah, so we've not had it, and we've survived this far. We're
But
looking
are
at
we
making cuts.
surviving? That's the problem. Are we just surviving?
Yeah, we're surviving.
I don't think we're surviving efficiently though. And that's what costs us money.
So
Because
it's
of
my
our-
understanding that anybody that would want that job is not gonna take the job based on the job description that this job offers.
Right.
Somebody that's got the credentials for the job are not gonna wanna come here and play by the rules that are required to play here under the setup that we've got between us and the county finance department.
Well, it's not even the county finance department as much as it is, are those jobs is that description being written correctly? I mean, are we giving them the full authority that they should be having in doing that job? Do they understand what their job entails and is entitled to? Because like I said, you've got a CFO and a COO. Those are equal positions, but at the same time, they're very adversarial positions. So how can you have one person doing both jobs?
Or we could just leave money sitting on the table for a job for a person that don't exist. Is that
That's what I
better?
say, and this is for the new director coming in, they need to understand what those positions are and be able to fulfill those positions, or else we're not going to be able to run as efficiently as we should. And that's what's costing us building maintenance money and this, that, and the other money and functioning money all
What
the
the
way
jobs
around.
are and how they're filled is not our problem. That's operations. That's the director's job.
And I agree 100%. And we have to have a director that understands what those positions mean. And we haven't had that for a couple of years.
Point of order. We would not know that.
Okay, where were we?
So, if you all wouldn't mind, what I would like to do is go ahead and finish some major points that have changed, and then we can come back and have discussions on what still needs to be added and what needs to be deleted. Is everybody good with that? So next is on page 23. I have here line 502, and I don't see a 502. But our insurance, this is an estimate. The insurance company has given us no direction. Ms. Bray, what line is that? I have.
It's on 2 different pages. It's our building contents insurance and our workers' compensation insurance, and I'm merely estimating.
Okay.
But I've asked a couple of times, they have no idea at this point what the increase will be. It was 12% last year.
What's your estimate? This year, what's the estimate that you?
12.
12 again?
Over actuals.
Okay.
What was it year before last? Are you seeing a trend where it's a higher increase every year?
Well, we had a double hit last year. They increased and then they reevaluated all of our buildings for the first time in about 5 years. So the values of properties went up.
And then if you look at line 471, the software line, You see a substantial increase there. Huge increase, I get that. If you remember, there was two gentlemen that came and did a presentation, and they had gone into Pleasant Hill, and they looked at every aspect of Pleasant Hill School, the maintenance piece. They let you know when they thought the elevator would need work or go out. They let you know about the electrical. They let you know about the plumbing, the toilets, everything. So this is a huge increase here to get them to come and do all of the schools, do an assessment of all of our buildings. And this is a one-time cost.
They did pictures and everything.
Yeah, they did picture, if you remember, they did pictures and everything. I mean, it was very, very thorough.
Very thorough.
And my opinion would be if you do this one time, then that would help you to get closer aligned with your maintenance needs and your maintenance budget there.
I agree. I know that just as detailed as they got, it got all the way down to the utensils in the cafeteria. I mean, it was
thorough.
very thorough.
But I just wanted to draw your attention because I understand that is a significant increase in that line. But I wanted to explain that.
Is that, and maybe it's, could we move, and this is a question I'm asking for, I guess the whole month, but could we move that increase to something we're gonna ask in addition to the commission? Because, I mean, we're helping facilitate their buildings more or less as far as county property, and pull that money out of our budget, so it's a savings on our side, but then asking the commission, hey, this is something that helps you guys, us, everybody across the board.
So I have one more page, so can we bring that back when we bring your finance person back up?
Yep.
Okay.
Can I ask a question on
Absolutely.
on that topic?
Uh-huh.
I thought that at some point we had come to terms with, maybe I misunderstood, that Pleasant Hill was essentially the pilot for how that program were to operate, for us to take said process and then duplicate that process internally. So essentially, we're going to pay them to run the pilot. We're going to take those bullet points and all of those, and then we're going to multiply that times 11, and then we're going to do that on our own as a maintenance organization for those other projects, as opposed to deploy them to do that same work 11 other times.
No.
Is that not?
No, that wasn't
I don't
it.
think we have the capabilities of doing what they did.
We're not doing it because you don't think we do, or you're
No,
not doing it because
we don't have the,
Capabilities for what they did.
or the manpower with the maintenance men with their current schedules.
So how are we gonna maintain that after we have the software and all the information? We still have to maintain it.
It's a one-time thing. I mean, it's just a one-time expense.
And we own the tool, and all we have to do is maintain the tool. We have to send them our updates, like if we replace an HVAC unit. All we have to do is send them the description, the cost.
You close that out in the software, right?
Right.
So I think that's where Nick's going, is if we have the software, if we buy the software, why can we not go put all the numbers in?
We don't have that. I mean, it took him he was there probably 3 days solid. I don't have the capability right now with manpower to do what he did, plus the costing side of it as well, to give us an estimated cost, the life, all of that goes along. The tool itself is very extensive.
Yeah. So, but just putting the model number and the serial number in
They're
the
gonna
software tells you that the
Well,
software.
they age it as well. I mean, it gives you an age. I can look and see in 5 years, this is the units that they predict will go out based on their age. It will give me a really good tool to nail this down of how much I need to budget for HVAC.
So
How much I need to budget for plumbing.
They were even like aging the tiles in the floor and things
Correct,
like that as
flooring.
well. Things that, it's just beyond our expertise as far as, unless you do that every day,
So that means we can pull that maintenance program out for $75,000 a school every year if we know when that tile's gonna wear out. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Yeah.
We will only be budgeting things that if the system would tell us to budget for.
So cost of program, initial cost, and then cost of
284,
284, and then
650.
and then the expected ongoing recurring.
None. We own the tool.
So once we own the tool,
They will help us maintain the tool, but there won't be any additional cost.
so the software is unlike every other software out there, it will never need updated.
It's a little bit different. It's just a tool that they provide to us.
It was web-based, so it gets automatic updates every year if it's web-based, right? Is there a company that supports that web-based software?
No, it's just basically it's their product, their proprietary thing, and it's just basically, it's more than an Excel spreadsheet. But that,
They showed examples of it, but I thought it was web-based.
I just
Well,
remember
it
having a
is, you're right, it is
conversation with
web-based, correct.
Mr. Stepp at Pleasant Hill School at Thanksgiving, and he explained exactly what I just said to you guys. That's why I asked the question, like, did I miss something in conversation that we were going to do something different than that? And it sounds like we are. 284.
650.
Don't forget the 650, please.
Yeah, I'd trade the 650 for the 284.
So the last thing that I want to draw your attention to is on page 26 and line 535. So that has doubled. The amount there has doubled. And the reason for that is because this year an organization called We Are One provided lots of shoes at the beginning of the school year for kids. So that took care of a high need. So we didn't have as many needs this year from this line as we normally do. And we have had lots of other items donated. And as you know, you never know from year to year what those donations are going to look like. But I think this is a little bit more closely aligned with how we have operated in the past. Any questions?
So just for the record, the grand total difference between this revision and revision 1 is $4.18 million.
And like I said, I don't have that. Ms. Brady, you have that?
Well, the majority of it is where we narrowed down where we were this year. And then I went back and recalculated based on actuals.
Yeah.
So
But
does,
yes, the fluff, as you call it, and it was, especially in the teacher line there. Because, I mean, when you reduce this, like I'm using masters in 5 years versus masters in 10. We took out the summer school money. We took out another $100,000 for a high school. I mean, a lot of it is on that page.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is using actual numbers versus the budgeted numbers, which is what has always been done here in the past. This is the first year, to my knowledge, that we've ever used actuals.
mm-hmm.
But it's actuals plus any increases for this year. Yeah, gotcha.
Any other questions?
Did we quantify, I'm gonna go back to the maintenance thing, did we quantify what we can save by spending $284,000 year over year? Like what, other than it being operationally more effective from a management standpoint, just mentally, fiscally, what will it do for us?
I don't know that I can quantify it like that, but I know having that information, having it aged, and me being able to look. Were you here for the presentation? I don't remember. I'll give you a book. It's really cool. It will tell you how many bar units are going to go out, the age of the elevator. They've already told me the most, and they prioritize it, which is hot,
Yep.
kind of like hot, warm, cold. The elevator is a hot thing right now at Pleasant Hill. It's the oldest thing in the building, costly, probably going to need to be replaced. And that is information that I would have never had. Plus, they give me an estimated cost based on national cost, what I'm looking at as far as to replace that elevator, should I have to do so.
Right.
And it would be able, I could budget school by school and say, okay, even if I had like so much, I could say I could do these projects by school. Instead of, to Mr. Vanderpool's point, saying, let's do $75,000 in floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's some estimation that should give us a lot better ability to create real numbers in projecting what our recurring expenses should be. Totally.
Right now,
Totally get that.
I hate to use
I
this
just-
term, but we're kind of taking a shotgun approach. I can go in every school right now and find flooring that needs replaced.
Sure.
I mean, I could take you to the floor in the spot right now where it needs to be
Yeah.
replaced at every school. Everybody needs bathroom petitions because over time they get destroyed. I mean, but we really don't know who has the highest need. I can't prioritize this school over this school. This is going to tell me that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like it's Kim Bray coming in saying, well, I like this person better than that, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's data.
Mm-hmm.
It's quantified.
Yeah, and that's, anytime there's a program, it has any program you operate, it's gotta have features and benefits. And those selling points or those differentiators between feature and benefit usually has a dollar bill attached to it, like, hey, people that go through this program realize 5% cost savings year over year, or 10%, or reduced inventory, or less man hours. Like, that's what I'm just trying to understand. We know what it costs. We know that in theory, it's going to make our jobs as operations easier, understood. But that sounds like a want without having a number to tie the need to the idea. I don't hear it's a need. Like, I'm no doubt know that it'll make things easier, but like, mathematically, what do we get from that? Less man hours from you working on that project, more focus, less fluff in the budget, less reoccurring, more accurate spend. Like, if they really looked at our plants, that would be they should be able to project a cost savings.
Well, they've only actually looked at one facility, and that's Pleasant Hill.
And so based on that, okay.
And then all they've really done is gone around and looked at the square footage and just that sort of thing to give us an estimate, a price estimate to go in and do this.
I think that's where we get a lot of the savings from too, is being able to, instead of having to, shoot from the hip and repair this or that, or wait till it breaks down, we're able to project when it's going, the detail that the program went through is we would be able to project not only when it's going to break down, but the cost estimate behind having to repaint, how many gallons of paint. I mean, it got into such detail that being able to plan those jobs and, knowing that you have the money afforded right there for that job and not having to waste man hours going and getting supplies and things like that, that's where, like, for Mary's team, it would be the biggest savings for us, is just being able to.
It could be.
It could give us a
Or it could tell you that
prioritize.
you need to go have $4 million worth of inventory on hand to be ready for all this stuff. Like, I've seen, software is as good as the data you put into it.
Yeah.
And it's as good as the people that put the data into it, and it's as tailored to the job that you ask it to be. So you can make it whatever you want, and I have no doubt that it could do a lot of amazing things. I just don't know any numbers to say that $284,000 is relevant at this time.
Yeah.
Because if we're gonna have the same methodology, hey, we've been doing it this way, it works for so long, but then we're gonna, we wanna look at a brand new way of doing things. Like, we can't say that in different conversations with the same thing, it's the theme of improvement. And they're like, nope, we got open mind in this category, but we got a closed mind in this category.
Yeah.
So either we're gonna get the checkbook out and prioritize, we're gonna spend it all at the same time, but cutting and
that's-
spending with no savings in mind is dangerous.
And that's where I kind of got to the point of getting the county to invest. I mean, because these are their buildings, their facilities.
Yeah.
As much as they are the schools, they are also their responsibilities as well. So getting them on board to invest in this would be a huge savings to us as well, so.
That's it. All right, I'll leave that one alone. I just wanted to understand it better. I apologize. Thank you.
No need to apologize. That's what we're here for, is to answer questions.
Thank you.
Make sure everybody's clear. Any other questions? Okay. So, The first thing we started talking about was the teacher scales that we have updated. We can go back in on that, on page 5 to that line and change that. That would be, obviously that's going to have a change. I don't know how much. We don't know for sure how much.
It should be about 300,000.
You think so?
Yeah, it should
Plus
be.
taxes and,
Even
Well,
with,
those are different lines though, right? She's just talking about the teacher line.
even with the discussion about system-wide?
Less, yeah.
Even with the system-wide discussion?
Yeah, so that would, I mean, the system-wide discussion included that. If we
Okay.
didn't do the system-wide, it wouldn't have been that much. It would have been about 200.
So I don't know if this is something that you all will need to vote on in the special called meeting next to approve this scale.
Is it ready for that, Ms. Bray, to approve that exact scale? You need, does it need more time looked over, or is it ready to approve?
I've checked it, but, I mean, it's, you said that's a lot. It's a lot of numbers. I think I'm good with it.
Okay.
Board members, what do you want to go with what this says, or do you want to put this over to the side and let us work on it more? So, Mr. Davis and Ms. Stout, so you all weren't here when we had the discussion. So on page 5, if you look at the budget, so if you look at our teacher line, we have verified, and that is line 116. So we have verified we need those positions. So in the past, when we have computed those salaries, we have figured that at a master's and 10. We have cut that to a master's and 5. So that has, reflected a little bit of savings there. We have built in for 2 teachers at the elementary level if they earn them in the cluster. We have removed all summer school money at the elementary level, just what the state will give us next year, and we hope that they will give us money. And then we only have summer school money for the high school just for the teachers, and that's it. So.
This is next summer.
Yes, this would be next summer. We have to put that in there. So, Mr. Van Winkle, I'm sorry I didn't write it down. What did you say that was we had cut that to?
325,800 is what I've got.
Yeah, you're talking about with the salary scale and
Yeah.
stuff, it's about,
325,800.
25.
Yes, in savings.
Just on that line. And remember, that cascades down to the taxes and the TCRS.
Kind of in a nutshell, that's where we are.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Which would bring the total savings on that from the previous budget to about $3 million on
Okay,
that overall page 5.
okay. I caught a 4.1 when I came in, some discussion about 4.1, so I didn't know if that was the
That's the
savings.
total
That's
for the whole
total.
budget, yeah.
2.7.
I've got it right here. I've got the same thing right here. If you need that.
So, board members, do you want to vote on this in the special call? Do you want us to do more work?
I think we can vote on it.
Yeah, I think if y'all cleaned it up and Ms. Bray thinks it's in a position that's gonna give us this semi-balanced for us to start working towards the balance. over
And
the
just
next
so
few
you know,
years.
this was discussed too. We did meet with the union today, and they are good with this as well.
Okay, well, that's good.
Mr. Davis, are you good if we vote on this? Mr. Matthews, are you good? Mr. Cole, are you good? Ms.
Absolutely.
Nichols, are you good?
Yes.
Mr. Van Winkle, you good?
Yes.
Okay. So then that would be one item for the special call. Okay? So I guess the next one item we need to discuss is the financial person. So do you all want, it is currently removed. That is approximately $96,000 in, is that salary? It's not,
No, it's 75 plus
okay.
benefits would be about
So,
100.
yeah, so, that is currently removed. That was on page 20, line 105. The only thing that you see there is Chief Operating Officer.
So that was something that I actually jotted down to ask about tonight. Before Mr. Stepp departed, he had mentioned that there were a couple of folks that were interested in that position or that had looked into that position and that might be interviewing. What kind of headway have we made with that
So we
at all?
interviewed both,
Uh-huh,
and County Finance Director came, we decided to move on.
okay,
More candidates.
okay. So we don't have anybody right now that's,
Well, as you know, you've heard several people come in and talk about, well, you heard Ms. Hamby. Some of you may not have heard Ms. Hamby say, but so we have a new HR software and
Oh, yes.
it collects resumes and things, and we're getting really good applicants. I don't know, I can't tell you how many we've had for this finance person. The job is still posted, and it's been posted probably for 2 years.
At
And I've
this
been turned
point,
down twice,
Ms. Bray?
and we've been turned down twice.
Turned down because of
Wouldn't say, just decided not to.
at this point, before we have a full-time director in place, I hate to take a position away from them and then them just have to come back and ask for it back. You know what I mean? So that's my opinion of it. I'm not ready to remove that position.
Well, if we haven't been able to fill it 2 years and we're trying to
But we
save
haven't.
money in this budget, and we can always add it back in later if somebody
Oh.
applies and wants the job.
We won't post it anymore if we remove it from the
We
budget,
have the money.
so it won't be available.
Okay, so, but how else do we get people? If we've advertised this and looked for this and no one's coming forward for it and we just leave the money there, that
That's-
doesn't make sense to me.
That's why I say we need a director that understands that position better. And that's why we haven't had that position filled.
So it's not
That's
just the
my
director, though,
opinion.
it's county finance and Ms. Bray and other people in the office who have also interviewed with these people, and they've turned it down and not accepted the job. Multiple people have not done that.
because there's such a focus on developing a budget plan for us for the next few years and working with the commission, I would hate to remove that position because I think that's going to be an important position in that process. It's unfortunate that Ms. Bray has had to cover 2 positions all this time. I don't know if with the new software we have, if that is going to be helpful, or if we need to make some changes in criteria, or if we need to talk with the county about how they have their finance operations and how that interfaces with us, if that's a handicap in us bringing somebody in.
money.
Obviously, what we're doing is not working, so there's going to have to be some
All of the
changes
above.
made to that, but I don't see that we don't have a need for that position. I just see that Ms. Bray's been
just can't
able
find
to
anybody
stop
for
the
that
gap
position.
for now, yeah. So I'm kind of that same thought. I have a hard time pulling that position off because I just think it's real important.
Yeah.
It is important, just how do we fill it when we don't
Yeah.
have applicants?
So if I'm hearing you all correctly and seeing the head nods, I think you want the financial person added back on.
Just thinking we can-
It's just money.
Okay, so then that would, so do we need to vote on it, or do you all just want me to add it back?
Well, we didn't
Just
vote
add-
on it to take it off,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So I don't
just
think
add it
we need
back,
to-
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's wise right now. The new director, whoever that is, can look at the org chart, decide what they need, come back to us.
So I think the next thing that we need to talk about and discuss is the software, the maintenance software. And that was on page
23.
23.
And y'all have it in here right now, or you do not?
It
It
is.
is in
It
here,
is.
and you can tell when you look at the line.
Yeah.
So,
We had discussion on that, but did we
We
vote?
did, yeah.
We won't vote on it
We
yet.
didn't vote on it.
No.
I don't think so.
We're just trying to discuss whether it needs to be in the budget or not, I think, and then we would vote.
Correct.
And if we do take it to a vote, we can make a motion to not include that or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then, I don't think I dreamed this up. So, it was mentioned adding it to, the capital projects as well. So, your options are you can totally remove it, or your options are you can add it to the capital projects that we are asking for. I really don't see how it falls under a capital project, but
No.
It's a one-time expense, so it
Right.
would.
True.
It would fall under a capital, especially since the amount.
Yeah.
So it could be considered capital.
So-
Tangible, depreciable.
Yeah, we
It-
did, I don't, did we send that to bid, or we just find one piece of software? Like, what's the competitors' prices?
They were on, one of the state contracts. They were on TIPS contract. So it did not have to go out to bid.
Right, but do we know, can we confirm that it is the best for the
Well, I
money?
had looked at some other projects that were pretty similar to this,
Yeah.
and this is by far the most economical, the easiest to execute that I saw. We looked at two other things, but they are on a TIPS contract.
Are they able to, I know y'all are having a lot of discussion about this when I arrived, and I don't want you to have to rehash it, but are they able to take the data that we have now from Mr. Chamberlain and utilize that as well? Because we had a pretty good outlay for that
I don't
when
think
we
so.
opted to.
They go
create their own
in, they go in
Totally
and do
separate.
everything. Do
Okay.
you remember those two young men that came and did the presentation
I
about?
wasn't here for the meeting,
Okay.
but I have the booklets and I've looked through them
Yeah.
and I watched the meeting.
So that to that depth is what they do when they go in and analyze a school.
My questions were this, Ms. Stout, was we understand in theory how it's gonna make the job easier.
Right.
But we don't understand the cost savings and the fiscal initiative that it's gonna, what's the long-term success of this? Like, what is the reasoning moving
Well,
forward?
what's it gonna do
fiscally?
for us differently than what the data that we have from the review that was done for each building? And then taking it by, like, we took the 4s and 5s first, right? We worked on those this year. We've got those worked into, well, they're capital projects for next year, right? So we're checking them off the list for what they've told us we need to do. Now, I know that doesn't have a cost associated with it, like, it sounds like this program does.
So this is far more detailed. Mr. Chamberlain did what I call more like a 10,000-foot view, the big stuff, the roof. This goes down to like individual HVAC units, how many you have, which kind they are, how old they are. I mean, there are hundreds of HVAC units in all of our buildings to know which ones are going to go out in the next 5 years.
It's a
So it allows us
predictive,
to-
it's a predictive maintenance
Yeah,
software is what
correct.
it is.
And it
So-
allows us to budget, to know year over year how much we're looking at for maintenance.
Correct.
And
that was-
projects.
That's what I had asked, is like, what would people that utilize this service, what do those participants typically realize in annual or whatever metric you want to look at? What savings timeframe do you normally see by deploying these services? Right, 'cause that's how you sell it, right? We're gonna save you 1,000 man-hours a year in chasing your tail, or you're gonna reduce your inventory by $100,000 quarter over quarter for the next 4 years.
Reduce
or
downtime, you're not gonna have any
What?
issues, yeah, so.
What is it?
It's a hefty output, that's for sure.
And that, maybe that's something we just need to research with other districts that have used this
And I
software.
can do that. There's several, not districts, but like cities that have utilized this.
Yeah, and see what their savings have been and things like that. Just get us, I mean, because the salesman's always gonna, and that's probably what they did me, they wowed and wooed me, whenever they went all the way down to the utensils. It was amazing at the depth that they went. But at the same time,
Does
So-
the county utilize a tool similar to this to maintain their
Not to my
current
knowledge.
inventory of, no? Do we think that their, amount of property is more expensive than what we currently maintain?
I can't answer that. I mean,
Yeah.
Like, I'm just trying to be like, are we smaller or bigger with what we have to manage than the entire county? Just,
Yeah, if you're looking at police department, fire department,
Sheriff's Department.
sheriff's department.
because, and what do they, how do they survive with it or without it? Like, if they have it, awesome. If they don't,
So I think what our whole county does right now is what I would call reactive maintenance. When it goes down, we fix it.
yeah.
So we experience
Yes, we do.
downtime, like the courthouse, for instance, which has not been usable, but it went to the point we couldn't use it anymore. So that's the way
They've
we,
gone on a rotation with some things, sort of like what we were doing with
yeah,
our
exactly.
maintenance.
And you do that.
Not big capital.
Yeah, this is gonna be very much more predictive so that we know exactly what's wrong, but now,
It helps you build in, right, for your 5-year plan. Like, okay, we're gonna put this into effect, and then we're gonna start seeing the results by year 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever that may be, and then you can estimate what your savings could be through use of the tool. But
I'm
if we
still
don't
with
have
you
those,
on knowing a little more about it first. What if we put a number in here not specific to McKinstry, and we do some more research? I don't know if that's the right answer or not either, but right now we've got questions about the software. Does it last forever? Obviously, like Nick said, we know software doesn't last forever, so what's the upkeep on that? And then what's it gonna give us down the
What are we
road?
gonna gain?
Yeah.
To me, it's worth the money for the simple fact of I'm sitting here looking at maintenance plans for this upcoming year that we're having to look at for budget and major projects. This tool would give us undisputable data to make those decisions if we're having to make cuts on those next year.
Down to the
Or even
penny,
this year,
right?
Other than just saying, yeah, it's been 10 years since we've done it, let's go with it. So to me, the value is more in the data that it provides rather than something that we can quantify, quantitate, whatever.
We won't have those nice round numbers anymore, right? It'll be to the penny now.
Yeah, to the penny and we can,
lot more
okay,
justifiable.
let's look at, all right here, north renovation, 550,000. Okay, well, maybe we don't need to do that this year, maybe that's next year, and I'm just using that as an example, but to me, it's a no-brainer just to give us a more educated decision opportunity.
Dr. Farley, what do you and your staff think about this tool? I mean, what's your opinion?
Well, I saw the same presentation that you all did. Looking at it from a building level principle, that would be great. You would know what your hot spots are. I mean, specifically, other than, hey, when a kid comes and says, there's brown water running down the hallway, and then you realize you have a plumbing problem. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully you would have a little bit.
Like they're saying, be more proactive.
Absolutely.
rather than reactive to things. So I think I'm liking where you're going, Scott, with the, let's keep it in there, but maybe we don't know for sure
Right.
if we're going this exact route. So I don't know if we need this exact dollar amount in there.
She did say that this was from the TIPS contract, and this was the lowest of all services.
That I looked at, and that being on the TIPS contract, that's a guaranteed lowest price for this particular service.
And you missed the piece before. Mr. Davis, was it 284, 650?
yeah, that's what I wrote down. But it's on here as a higher number.
Yeah, 293 is what's on the budget.
Yeah,
Well, there's other things
Well,
in there,
that-
her little software's in there.
Okay,
Yeah, it's not just that, I promise.
okay.
Her Brightly software that she uses every day for maintenance tickets is in there.
Okay, that's all
Okay.
software, I got
So
you.
some of the current things that we use. Okay.
See, it says right there, maintenance work order system plus this piece.
Facilities.
Was there a vote to have this trialed? Or I don't,
Yes.
okay, that was,
Yes.
Do you know, I don't remember when it was done. Do you know when it was done, Ms. Bray?
No. But I knew that they put it to a vote before I asked, because I requested, it was sometime in the budget last year.
so you know what how much was it for them to do the
30.
initial? 30,000?
Right
Okay.
at 30.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a while since we voted on that.
It was last budget year, I believe, because it was listed on my budget requirements for last year.
Okay.
So was that before some of you came up on the board?
It would have been.
Okay. I thought so, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
But see, this would impact not just that one line, but like, I look at HVAC equipment. I budget HVAC equipment based on prior years and what I've spent this year. I never know when a large unit at a high school is gonna go out like it did, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, and that's $55,000. Boom. But people don't like to be hot, and they don't like to be cold.
Right.
I do know that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the lines that, I mean, that can go crazy real quick. And that's something that it's really hard for me to know how old all these units are and when to anticipate that.
That's the detail that you didn't get with that maintenance report, and
Right.
they didn't know that
Right.
that unit was 35 years old or whatever. So.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so do you all want to leave this in, or do you want to take it out?
I say
Okay.
it, at least keep it for now.
Yeah, we can vote on it.
So, okay,
It's
or
still a item that we'll have to vote on to move forward
It is.
with,
It is.
but
Right.
at least to have the
Right.
ability to do so. to
We've
move
got it in
forward.
there, and maybe we do, or maybe we don't. But
okay, so the only, and I'm great with that. The only thing is, when I go to present this, I don't want there to be hardly any fluff. I want this to be the bare whatever that we need. So I just want to go on record as saying that.
So at this point, the intent is for us to,
Use this.
yes.
Okay, so everybody's good with us keeping it in there.
I wouldn't say that, but
I was just
Are
getting.
some of us good with keeping it in?
I was just getting
said
ready
that.
to start on this end this time instead of that end. So, Mr. Van Winkle, do you vote to keep it in? Or do we need to vote on this later in the special call?
You can't vote
Okay.
right now until it's
Yeah.
a special call, so, but am I in
This really
favor?
wasn't, this really wasn't an
Well, it's
official
really a
vote
vote.
because it was
Yeah.
just me asking.
Do you
Me
want
asking.
Do you want her to take it out or leave it in?
A
That's what she's
straw poll.
asking.
Yes, a straw poll. But we can just wait and that can be something we vote on with the,
And I can discuss it some more if you want to, but
I think we've beat it to death, just
Yeah.
thought my thoughts. Okay, so, another thing that I wanted to talk to you all about was the capital projects. This too was updated on 5/20. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items that are on there. The only thing that has changed is the north renovation was added to it. Just wanted to make you aware,
all of that was moved to line
the last page,
91,300.
the one that the comptroller asked us to create, that is 91,300 on page 28.
And then what was the premise behind changing that line?
The auditor asked us to do that.
Okay.
Because those are considered capital items instead of operational, and that would help us in our quest to have our 2 months of operational expenses, because those are truly not operational.
Right, okay.
And that's where they said it needed to be.
Yeah. There used to be a line for that, and I thought with the BEP,
Isn't it
I thought, well, we actually
percent?
got funding for that through the BEP, but now we don't, right? Yeah.
Everything else
That has
per
been
student.
added.
Okay.
So that hasn't changed from the budget on May the 20th,
Just change lines.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So the only other thing that I wanted to discuss with you was on Thursday when we had the meeting, you all voted to table approving the consolidated funding application for federal programs. We have discussed some various things regarding that in the meetings. I had reached out to principals. We had discussed class size reduction, teacher, Mr. Van Winkle. I had reached out to principals. I did it yesterday, and the principals have done an amazing job of getting me what I wanted. By today, it just wasn't as specific as I wanted to have it to share with you all. But I was compiling data for grades 2, 4, and 6, current, 2nd, 4th, and 6th graders. and I guess sometimes when I sit in this seat now and I make some decisions, I take it that you all have faith in me and put me here to make some of those decisions. So my opinion would be, if you're going to look at class size reduction teachers, you would do that for grades 3, 5, and 7. Because those typically tend to be your more strenuous academic years. So that's why I got data for 2nd, 4th, and 6th grade. So I wanted to look and try to figure out where our highest needs would be for a class size reduction teacher. And I will have that data. Hopefully I can share that with you all no later than Thursday of this week. But what I have asked for is, it's by school. It has the number of students that are enrolled. It has their attendance. It has their discipline. And this is just overall for every grade level. It has the number of kids that are receiving RTI in each tier, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, for reading, language, arts, and for math. And then for our 2nd graders, it has their reading and math score for their Ames Web Universal Screener. And then we have the same thing for 4th grade, except we looked at their last Mastery Connect benchmarks. And we looked at reading and math. So hopefully I will have those and can get those in a rank of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you can look at 7, 8, and 9 and see. But in doing that, I did reach out today to the assistant commissioner that's in charge of federal programs with TDOE. And she and I were talking about class size reduction teachers. So she stated that if you choose to do a class size reduction teacher, she said currently there's 15 to 18 districts in the state that have those. You have to prove that the teacher that you're putting in there is highly effective. You have to provide data, which that would be no problem. You know, we live in data world here. So, but that would be a school decision if we chose to do that. And it would have to come out of the school's Title I budget. That's not a district set aside. And that would have to be reflected in the school's Title I needs assessment. And since we haven't had those in a few years, there hasn't been a person that has put that in there. Now, they can adjust their needs assessment should they want to do that. Currently, you have a lot of our elementary schools that are paying for assistance out of that Title I budget. So, you know, they would lose some assistance in doing that if they chose to go with a teacher. But I wanted to share this with you as well. Miss Thompson is her name, and she offered to come and explain to you all federal funding and how it works and how the spend down goes to the individual schools and how allocations are set up and all of that information. I mentioned to her June 12th, which is our next work session. And I would be happy to reach out if you all want her to come and do that. I just thought I would throw that out there.
So I've got some questions on that, but I wasn't necessarily prepared to discuss this today.
Okay.
But I know that school allocations have dropped tremendously in the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. From over $1 million to down around 880,000, I think is where we're at right now. So why are the district set-asides going up? And if the principals are doing such a good job with that money, why are we taking it away from the principal's discretion?
Okay, so she told me today that our funding is based on poverty factors, which obviously we knew that. But a lot of that information, she said, and I'm looking down at my papers because I don't want to mess this up. A lot of it comes from census data and data that the U.S. Department of Ed provides. And then you go back to your direct cert numbers, which is foster care and things like that. So our student enrollment, we do know, is decreasing as well. We've talked about that, down to 6,700 students. So we're seeing that. So that's one thing. And then Cumberland County, shockingly enough, appears to be getting richer based on census and U.S. Department of Ed data there. So that's another piece. Now, For this year, in our Title I budget, we do have an additional $200,000 that's been set aside at this time. Now, in that set-asides, you have certain monies that you have to allocate for, like for homeless, for our ESL population, and I can't remember any of the others because I didn't write that down, my apologies. But we have some set-aside money. But what Dr. Wittenbarger did, and this was discussed today, is he set aside that $200,000 because we are so unsure right now. So what we would rather do is go ahead and set this aside in a reservation pool, pond, whatever you want to call it, and then wait and see where we shake out. Schools will probably get a little bit more of this money, but we want to make sure that we have enough to pay for the people that they are wanting to bring back currently within reason, because I know some schools have had to lose several, but that's what we're trying to do, is make sure that you don't get somebody in October and say, oh, I'm sorry, we're out of money, we can't pay for you, you're going to have to go home. We would never want to do that. So that's why we have this additional $200,000 set aside. But when we get our final allocations, because we still don't have those, that money would be spiraled down to the school level. He did send out an email today, and I'm sorry, I haven't had a chance to read it. I haven't had a chance to read hardly any of my emails today, but he did set aside, and Tennessee is getting an additional $44 million, I do believe, and that will probably in Cumberland County get a chunk of that as well for federal money, but we don't know the piece yet we would get. So hopefully we will still be getting some additional, but does that kind of answer your questions about the set aside?
So I understand what you're doing with the set-asides, but there's also other spending going on besides the set-asides that are not at the school. That's what I was asking about the other day. So that's what I wanted to understand. I think you've explained some of that to me. Some of it I still am not clear on, but.
Just let me know and I'll be happy to
Yeah.
get what I need to get for you.
Yeah.
Okay? So our next work session, I do believe, is June 12th. So would you all like for me to reach out to Ms. Thompson?
I don't think it would hurt to get a little more information on that, gain a little more understanding.
Yeah.
So she is the Assistant Commissioner of Education in charge of federal programs, so.
Did she suggest still doing free and reduced forms? She suggested not doing it at all?
Yes.
Okay. And did she give a reason for that?
You get here's what she said, and you can ask her when she comes, but basically you're getting the same information from your direct certifications.
But we're not.
And I'm not quite sure, based on some additional information that we've received, that if we continue to do the universal feeding, that we can even send out and ask parents to complete free and reduced lunch.
So why is that on the state's website then?
Now that I can't answer, and again, I saw this kind of in a subject line, and I haven't got to fully read the email, but that's kind of the gist I got. So I probably shouldn't even have mentioned that, but that was something that kind of came to light today. So I can get you more information when I have it.
And that's what our discussion was the last time, was that there was 3 different ways to determine which way would best serve the purpose. And we don't necessarily vet that every year. And that was my question, I think, was how do we determine if and when it would be advantageous to take the other or opposite approach? So I don't, maybe she can answer that.
Right.
Absolutely. A discussion was had today. I know we've had some questions regarding the direct certification, using that, or the direct certification times 1.6. So what that does is that determines your students that qualify. So if you use that direct certification times 1.6 for this year, all 12 schools are going to have to be served. Currently, we serve 10.
So it's not each school you don't do it, you have to do it all, the entire district?
Everyone that qualifies.
Everyone that qualifies. And if you use the direct cert and the 1.6 multiplier this year, every school will be above 75% poverty. So you would have to serve the 2 big high schools, which they currently do not receive Title I funds. So instead of taking our little pool of money and dividing it by 10, we would then have to take our little pool of money and divide it by 12. But that was something that was mentioned today. She did share that with us today.
So,
But that little pool of money wouldn't increase any over that.
No.
no, it doesn't. It stays the same because it's based on the direct certs. The 1.6 is just how you allocate it to the schools.
So, I will talk to her then. It sounds like that everybody would be in favor of her coming on June 12th.
Yes.
So I will reach out to her tomorrow to do that. So with that being said, you all tabled the consolidated funding application. When might you all want to look back at that and figure out if you all are going to agree to that or not?
So, did you find out if we've actually lost any teachers, assistants that were serving students through those grants?
Through Title I?
Yeah, Title I, Title II.
So when I got back Friday and sat down to look and see what I needed to do, I had feedback on title. And I'm like, well, that's really not beneficial. So no, I did not, and that's on me. But so assistants lost.
And teachers. And what programs are lost too, because I know there's some principals that have said that they've had to give up some programs and pick and choose the ones they want to keep.
And right now, and I don't care to look and see what their projected loss items are, but keep in mind, we don't have our final allocation, so we may be getting more.
Okay.
And at this point, what we have advised and asked is that you just focus on your personnel at this time and trying to make sure that we have enough money to get them through the school year rather than on programs. So that's kind of the advice that was given, and that went out probably in March when we got our preliminary allocation.
So do we need to budget more in the teacher line and more in the assistant line to keep serving the students the way that they've been served in order to meet what we've been doing? Because we don't want to go backwards.
Correct.
Our reading scores are not, we want them to go up, not down.
Absolutely.
And people, like you've said.
People over programs.
Right, so.
Absolutely. So we have in this budget, we have built in 8 120-day interventionists, and we have 1 80-day interventionist. And those people were put in that budget to provide interventions for our 3rd and 4th grade. Those have not been taken out, so that's still in there. Now,
The reason I'm asking is because do we lose supports in that intervention program through federal funding that we need to keep in place through local funding?
I can check, because right off the top of my head, I don't know, but something to keep in mind, and I know this may be a cheesy explanation, but this is how federal funding has always been explained to me, and it goes back to, you all have heard some talk about supplement, not supplant. So federal funding, and Mr. Threet, you've probably heard this too back in your day when you were here. So federal funding is the icing on the cake. Okay, so, based on different factors, sometimes you might have more icing than you do other years. Another thing that we're dealing with, talking about some of the loss of federal funding that was mentioned today, was during COVID times, they would give you waivers, and you could use numbers from the years before and all of that to affect funding as well. So those are all gone now. So what we're dealing with is our numbers. But to answer your question, yes, we probably have. Could I tell you exactly how many? No. And whether or not you all want to add people, I don't know of many schools that can afford, that could afford out of their title money a full-time teacher. So they might have used that teacher 50% out of title and 50% out of something else. I know we have schools that do use interventionists, and I think most of them have been able to keep them, but don't know for sure. But I can get that data for you by Thursday probably.
And that kind of goes to one of my questions about the class size reduction teacher. Instead of using title money and the expense that goes along with that by verifying having to justify that teacher, there's expense and money that is involved in what year teacher we put in that place and things like that. Would we benefit more from supporting that class size reduction on a local scale than from out of title money? You know what I mean? Would there be savings there to hire one locally that we don't have to justify as rigorously as we do to use the title money?
That would be strictly up to you all if you wanted to do that. You could use those same guidelines. I'm always a fan because I've been in the buildings and I know I'm always a fan of trying when we can to be fair. And I know fair and equitable are two different things. So I would struggle with that. And when you sit here, you have to make decisions and you have to be good stewards of taxpayers' money. You want to make everybody happy. Obviously, you want to make the teachers happy without a doubt. You want to do what's best for kids always. I don't know that that's always what's best for kids. I know sometimes when you look at lower ratios, you think that's the winning answer, but that's not always necessarily the case.
Well, and I guess the reason I ask that is because of the third grade retention law thing. If we just focus in that area, maybe second and third grade or whatever, to make sure that class size makes it advantageous for us to do that. It makes that we really are getting everything out of the kids that we can to not have. And I say that because, I've had some parents that have contacted me and they're, hey, what is going on with this third grade retention? This is ridiculous. My kids, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, where are we missing? I don't know. And I know that the third grade retention law is just aggravating as can be anyway.
I don't think it's so much what we do in third grade. I think it's what we do leading up to third grade that's so important.
And that's why I say maybe the second and third grade.
I think this was shared with you all briefly at a meeting. So this year, one thing that we did was we looked at our first graders. So we worked with our first grade teachers and RTI coordinators, and we came up with some guidelines and some assessments that we would use. So we have retained some first graders because here's my opinion as a professional educator. If a kid's not reading proficient in third grade, you're going to have a really, really hard time getting them caught up. Mm-hmm. So we moved back to first grade, and we have retained several first graders right off the top of my head. I can't tell you. I do have it broken down, and we'll be happy to share that with you as well. But we worked with principals and teachers and came up with that. And here's the thing too. Hopefully this next year in first grade, we can really focus on that and then get those first graders proficient. But for some reason, if they're not, then they will not be allowed to be retained in third grade because you can only be retained once.
And I'm not trying to get into your classroom and your operations of things of that nature, of where you put teachers or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But if there's an opportunity for us to budget more to help, that's what we're here for. It's not necessarily how you do that, how you operate, or where you place people. But if there's opportunity that we need to be building into this budget or into any budget moving forward, just That's what we're here for.
Yeah,
Data
yeah.
data would help
Say
that,
data.
yeah, if you get
I think
some,
that's what you're asking for, Jonathan, is the data.
And I
We
have
can see
that.
what's
It's-
working, what's not, and
It's
do
just
we need
not
to shift
completely ready to go.
funds, or
yeah.
where can we help with the fund piece on that? Because you're being very gracious in saying that it's our decision, but, you know, in my opinion, we're not experts. It's the teachers, it's the principals, it's administration, it's you all. And so I look to you all for what is the best for the
You telling
students
us.
and how we're operating, and then what do we need to do, you know, as a board to help support that?
And if you bring us data, then that supports our decision with our
Business case.
funding body, right?
Yeah, the
Right.
business case.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we should have some data coming from all the, since we've got our test results back, right?
Yes, but what those are right now are just scale scores, and they're embargoed, so we really can't share that specifically, because I would really like to share with you the third grade data, but I can't. But
You can share benchmarking though, right?
correct.
Yeah.
And like I said, I have specific things that I ask for second, fourth, and sixth, and I will have all of this information to you all by Thursday.
Good. Okay.
Okay?
So do we need to add 6 more teachers to the budget line, to the teacher line right now? or-
Not unless you want me to fall over right now with a heart attack, no.
We've budgeted sufficiently for what the principals and the administration.
At this
thinks
time,
we
yes.
need. Okay, we're good.
Yes. I mean, we.
Based on the amount of money they think they have, yeah.
Based on our allotment meetings and meeting the class size requirements set forth by the state, yes, we are good. Okay, so I did ask a question and no one's answered it.
Or the Title I,
Yes, the consolidated funding application.
I don't have any more additional questions, but I think some board members might. But you've got a time frame that you have to have it approved for, so I think we said the drop dead date on that would be our board meeting this month.
So I questioned her about it today. At this point, it has been approved. They have approved it because as it was submitted, it met all of the requirements that the state requires us to have.
So why do we vote on it then?
Because that is a requirement. There's a form that will be signed off on, and it has to be uploaded in E-Plan saying that the board has voted on
So
it.
really we're just a token vote then? It doesn't really matter?
We're standing behind what's been submitted and what's been approved.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're a token vote?
Probably yes.
Yeah.
However,
So,
hopefully next year when this process starts, I've tried to be as transparent as I can. Let's see, I think I'm getting close to day 30. So I've tried to be as transparent with you all and everybody that sits out here in this crowd as I can. So with that being said, going forward, when we start the process, getting input from you all, that would be my thoughts and suggestions for next year.
Could vote to refuse,
no,
I would not suggest
doing that.
voting to refuse money ever.
I'm not doing that. For the record, I'm not voting to refuse money.
Thank you. Okay.
Well,
I would like to see us get as much as we possibly can and use it for the best interest of all the kids is what I'm doing,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Use it
Mr. Davis,
wisely.
did you have a comment?
yeah, I think the vote, right, token, whatever you want to call it, there's checks and balances, whether or not we are experts on the inner workings of how an administration works at the school level isn't necessarily the point so much as is if there are options for us to help tailor our budget to the intent of the community to spend the money, then that's essentially, I would imagine, what that vote is there for. Right, so we're not just saying, hey, congratulations, we don't have a director for that, but somebody's doing a good job. At least we have some knowledge as to how we're gonna attack that. So I for one would like to know about it.
Yep.
As best as we can, because there's more than one way to do it, and
Well, we're voting to agree to it, so we do need to know about it because that's how we're agreeing to move forward in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, another option here for you. So we could. I mean, we could go ahead, let her come on June 12th and do what we talked about, waiting until to the next board meeting and putting it on there for you to approve then.
That's fine.
What was the deadline on it?
No,
31st.
Well, end of the fiscal year.
So, we could also do a special call meeting at the end of the work session if we need to do it earlier.
Right.
And we could get the presentation, that we could vote on it, and just, because that won't take but a few minutes to.
And speaking of work sessions, so, or special called meetings, so when we go in on our Board Connect and you all see the special called meeting, we cannot say on our Board Connect special called meeting to follow the board meeting, we have to set a time. So that's why we set a time, this time for 5:30. You know, because it requires us to do that. And I really didn't want to freak everybody out by saying, okay, we'll have one at 7, you know, so that's why I said 5:30. I would rather freak you out in a good way than a bad.
It's beginning to look like
Thank you.
7 now.
I know, but I wasn't going to go down that street. But I just want everybody, especially the press, to know why we have a special called meeting and the time.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so does that answer your question then?
Yes, wait until
Wanna
June
go ahead and
14th,
get-
or June 12th at least.
And then do we want to do just set up a special call for the work session? Everybody think we can vote after that?
Yep.
Okay. I will reach out to her tomorrow.
Thank you.
So you all have addressed all of my questions and everything that I had. Anything that I'm missing?
nope,
I don't think so. Pretty thorough.
yeah.
Yeah.
Vote on.
Yes. So
So if there's anything else, if there's not, we'll take a recess, come back. Short recess.
Short recess.
This meeting.